to the Influence Factory podcast. This program is dedicated to support professionals who have a desire to develop their digital business influence so they can navigate through a fast-paced, constantly growing digital world. We invite newcomers as well as our family of business influencers to a place to play, share ideas, questions, tips, and guidance with other thought leaders around the globe. Sit back and enjoy our program with our host Dean Delisle as he interviews guests. News and commentary is provided by Kate Hudson and Jackson Delisle. Power Move lessons are provided by the Influencer Marketing Department at Social Jack. And production, editing, and distribution is provided by the Social Jack production team.
So just want to welcome everybody to a episode, first one of the year of Influence Factory, where we bring you the latest industry news related to building your digital influence in your personal brand. We also bring you news and lessons, and we also get to hear from business influencers like our guest, Colin Egglesfield today. So we're excited to have him, and welcome Kate and Jackson. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Good. Are you doing well in this balmy 40-degree weather here in Chicago?
Yep. Yeah. Better than last week, negative 50.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I walked outside. I was like, I'm hot. I don't need to wear a jacket. And then I realized it's still like in the 30s, 40s, but
yeah, it's the crazy
feels
time.
So much better.
Yeah, since Kate moved from Atlanta, she has to have 3 outfits out this time of year. So just to cope. So
exactly.
With that being said, we just want to guide people that do want to attend our events to the Social Jack website. Just click on the events tab and you'll see that we have webcasts and events and conferences that we're part of, and always appreciate if you are coming or going to wherever we're at that you let us know so we can introduce you to a whole bunch of people and help you build your personal brand. So with that being said, Kate, where can people join us on social?
So our lovely Nia will be live tweeting on Twitter. You can follow us at Get Social Jack. Use the hashtag Influence Factory. And then, of course, we also have our brand new Facebook group, the Business Influencer Alliance. So make sure you're checking there because updates, your questions answered, that'll all happen in the Facebook group. And then, of course, we're on Facebook and LinkedIn as Social Jack. So check.
There you go. And every week on our show, if you're part of that Business Influencer Alliance, we will make sure that you get to peek behind the scenes as we go live a little early to that group. So with that being said, I understand we have we always like to cover at least one piece of news. So the team has selected a piece of news. So what do you guys have for us today?
So today we're going to be talking about an article that was posted on social media today by Mark Walker Ford. It's called 25 Free SEO Tools to Help Your Website Rank Higher on Google. I felt like this was a great article to kick off 2019 with, since people are always looking to boost their business and, especially brand awareness. And this is very cool because this is especially for the companies that don't have monster budgets like Nike and, Google and Adidas, things like that. So we all know that Google is the #1 search engine in the world. So it is actually estimated to facilitate more than 3.5 billion searches every day.
Wow.
So, getting to the top of that in Google search results, that's a big deal because, you have 3.5 billion chances. But the coolest thing about this is it gives you tools that are free. They're not going to cost you anything, or at least they have a great free trial. So coming in first place was Google PageSpeed Insights. This is a great tool for you to plug in your website URL, and it'll test page speed, and it'll explain how you can improve it and what's causing it to slow down on loading time, things like that. So that, it's a great tool, and I highly recommend it, and it's free. So that's also a really
love
cool.
Free.
Yeah, we do. Well, that's just what I wanted to say. Like, even with social media being so big and influencer development being so big, exactly what Jackson said, even companies with smaller budget, website traffic from search engines are so huge for every company, especially small companies. So if you can cut corners in your budget by using a free tool. I think that's so great. Another one that Jackson pointed out on the list that we wanted to talk about was the keywords tool, and that's a keywordstool.io. And so this helps you develop your keywords based on it helps you provide hundreds of additional keywords based on one keyword. So this is a conversation we have with clients, with people in the group all the time, and they're like, what are my keywords? What are my keywords? And that's something that you want to be found for. So if the keyword that you're using is very saturated and lots of people are using it, this can help you come up with other options to kind of break through the noise. So also a very good tool.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kate. And I think a lot of people forget something to add to that is don't just type into the keywords that you call your items. Make sure you ask your customers, how did they search for you? So even though we're in the business influence business, if you will, most people find us because they want to increase their personal brand, their thought leadership. So there's a lot of keywords. And so what's good about that tool is it will give you variations too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I the other cool one that we're going to discuss, just because we're short on time, we're not going to get through all 25 of these. You can check out this article in the Facebook group or in our resource center on Social Jack. It's got tons of great tools to help you boost your SEO for 2019. So make sure to check it out. And also, the second tool that coming in second place was the Moz Local Listing Score. And this is very cool because it shows you how your business it looks online. It just shows you how it crunches the data from 10 different sources, Google, Yelp, Facebook, and it scores your business on how it is presented to the outside world. People who don't know your brand, people who things like that. It is very cool, and I definitely recommend checking it out.
Yeah.
That's all we have for the news today. So,
all right. So thank you guys for the news. Great reports on that. Also, we have a lesson of the day, and we always like to start with what we call our Social Jack Power Move. So we're going to be talking to Colin here in a few minutes about transitioning your influence. And one of the things that I want you to consider is that no matter what you're going through, what you're changing, a lot of us are adjusting, shifting. 2019, we're building, whatever that looks like. We are literally shifting our network all the time. So what I encourage you to do is to Google the term social teaming and know that you can grow and pivot your network each and every day. And so we have a ton of materials out there. We want to encourage you to make sure you look at the network, and just because you are where you're at today doesn't mean that's where you have to be tomorrow. So make sure you're always looking at your network. Are you engaging with the people and the social team that's going to help you reach your goals and get to where you want to go? So we want to make sure everybody does that. And please, if you need more materials on that, just either go to socialjack.com or go to Google and just type in social teaming. With that being said, I'm excited about today's guest, Colin Egglesfield. He is best known as a Hollywood actor, and he's appeared on popular TV shows like All My Children, which my mom and my grandmom used to watch, and then Holly watched and everybody watched. Hawaii Five-0, Melrose Place, appeared in recent movies with well-known actors Kate Hudson, Sylvester, or I call him Sly Stallone, and others. In addition, recently relocating back here to Chicago so we could hang with him to focus on his real estate career and community redevelopment projects. He's doing a ton of wonderful work. He works with a ton of charities. Please welcome actor and my good friend, Colin Egglesfield. There he is. What's happening? And Jackson and Kate, we'll see you at the end.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Chicago.
Yeah, from the West Loop, right?
Exactly.
Now, what's interesting about this is you said, and we'll talk about transitioning, sort of yourself in a minute here. But when we were warming up, you talked about from the West Loop, and people said, or you were talking about, or people would say, Colin, don't you wish you were in LA? And you were like, no way. So I know we have people listening from LA. What do you like about Chicago over LA?
Well, having grown up here, it's my family is here. Some of my really good friends who I grew up with are here, and I guess before I even get into that, I just want to say thank you, Dean, for having me on the show today. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Jackson. I am excited to be on the show. I'm excited to be back here in Chicago, and yeah, just like I said, having grown up here and feeling like I had my opportunity to get out, explore, travel the world, and there's a lot of great things I love about Los Angeles, a lot of great things I love about other places in the world. But I guess my personality has always been one in which I've always had this adventurous spirit to kind of go out and explore. And after kind of traveling and seeing what else is out there, I've really recognized that Chicago really has the best of so many things from around the world. It has, it's got great restaurants. It's got great theater. It has community of people that I've really started to appreciate now that I'm doing my real estate business, in terms of just having a project that so many, like just mentioning it to different people. The networking here is incredible. And that's something that you guys have really helped me tap into, that I just didn't feel like I was able to really truly wrap my hands around in Los Angeles. Doing any sort of project requires a ton of support and networking. And because I didn't necessarily have the connections when I first moved out to Los Angeles, I just moved out there as, an actor aspiring to get to where I wanted, to be on a TV show and a movie. And even having gotten up to that certain level of working on some, hit TV shows and doing some movies with, like you mentioned, Kate Hudson and Sylvester Stallone. It really is it's very challenging in Los Angeles because there's so many people who are there for that one industry of entertainment. Right. And everyone is vying to get people's attention. And with so many people out there trying to, make movies and do television, it's very competitive, and you truly have to love what you do in order to survive out there and to put up with all the nonsense, whether it's, going on 100 auditions before you book one role, and the traffic and all that stuff. And I just kind of felt like, with where I was at in my life, I still wanted to do my acting, and there was I started to see that there's a lot of new shows that are filming here in Chicago, and some shows that existed here. And I felt like with my real estate business growing here in Chicago, I was finding myself coming back here like once every month or two. And I finally realized that with the advent of the way technology has, Hollywood has embraced the technology, I'm able to do auditions, upload them up onto Dropbox, send them to my agent in Los Angeles. And then if there's further interest, then I can jump on a plane and fly back out to LA to pursue those.
Yeah, that's cool. And what's interesting, when I do a business, I told you I'm leaving today for San Diego, and I have some clients in LA as well. And what's interesting is I'm there because of the people that I know. And as you were talking about acting and getting into that, it's almost like business. It's like busting into that network, and that's almost an interesting thing. So how is that different, busting into a Hollywood network versus a business network where you're going to go pick up clients or a deal?
Yeah, I would say it's a lot tougher busting into the Hollywood network because it's very insular, and it's almost like being in high school, where if you break into that, the cool club, or if you get click of, if you get on a TV show or a movie, you get invited to all the parties, and then it opens up doors to meet different people. But it seems people are very guarded. I've noticed in Los Angeles, because it seems like a lot of people are out there. It seems like they want something from you. As soon as they know that you're on a TV show, or if you're a producer, they're like, here's my script, and I wrote this, and can you get me an agent, and can you can you do this for me? And so what I learned was that whenever I would meet someone, I would try to, instead of asking something from them, then one of the greatest lessons I've learned was to provide something of value to someone, and just saying like, oh, what are you working on? Oh, you know what? I've got a friend who's a producer who might be interested in helping you out with that. Or I know, a musician who might want to do the scoring for your film, or whatever it is, to the point then where they then, because I've provided value to them, then they are like, well, what are you working on and how can I help you? And that's a big lesson I learned, because man, it's amazing how many people will just, knowing that you're simply on a TV show, they think that you have the keys to the kingdom and that you're going to be able to introduce them to Steven Spielberg. And and even when, they say it's easy to get to the top, it's hard to stay there. And it's kind of crazy. You see actors who were popular on like 90s TV shows, and then they disappear, and then boom, they appear on like a hit TV show, like Grey's Anatomy. What's his name? Main character.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I can't think of his name.
Patrick Dempsey.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was in this movie, Can't Buy Me Love, back in like the 80s. And he was like the dorky kid. And then he disappeared. He comes back on Grey's Anatomy like 20 years later is like the heartthrob. It's like, well, where have you been the past 20 years?
It's almost like even like, when actors would pop up like Harrison Ford and things like that, and then good old IMDb comes up and you look back and they're like, holy smokes, they were in that movie. And it's just an awful movie, and I'm surprised they don't let them take it down, but once it's out there, right?
Yeah. And it's very important to, once you get to a certain level, to protect that brand and your image. Once you reach a certain level, people ask like, oh, well, you started in the modeling world, and then you started doing commercials, and then you advanced to doing a guest star, and then you become a principal actor on a TV show, and then you do the movies. And people ask, well, once do you ever do any more commercials, or do you do any more modeling stuff? And it's almost as if like, once you get to a certain level, it's unless it's the right fit, if you go back down, you're degrading your brand or the perception in Hollywood of the level that you're at.
It's interesting because I think business is somewhat like that too. If you work in a certain class or area of business, then all of a sudden you graduate to, let's say, an enterprise business, which, think of that like a big feature film, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm going to come back down here to this level of business. And then it's almost like, do you lose credibility in that network because now you're seen down in this network? And as you're playing this out, I think there's a lot of parallels in there, with doing that. And one of the things that always surprised me is you saying that well, if once I'm in this type of movie or this type of show, I can't just take anything, in acting. You have to be selective. So that means you have to pass up things that you might want to do for things that you can't do. And does your agent like tell you that? Like, is he stand on the sideline and go, hey, I know you want to do this, but we really should?
Yeah. And I mean, and sometimes you miss on them. I mean, when Battlestar Galactica was being brought back, this was like, I want to say 10 years ago. Right. I just gotten out to Hollywood, and I was starting to do, some I guess, sort of, quality guest stars, and I booked a pilot, and so I a little bit of kind of heat behind me. And when Battlestar Galactica was being auditioned, they were casting for the new Battlestar, I was like, oh my God, I love that show when I was a kid. I was like, that'd be so cool to, be on that show. And my agent was like, whoa, that's Battlestar Galactica. It's on the Stars Network. It's like, it's only like 13-year-old kids are going to watch that. And so, but they're like, if you want to do it, just know that we'll just kind of see what else is out there. So I went in, I auditioned, and got further along on the audition process to the point where I was starting to audition. It seemed like I was their guy, and I was starting to audition some of the female actresses that they were considering to play opposite me. And so I was like, I was hanging out with the producers and the director, and I was like, okay, this is great. Looks like I'm going to be doing this. And then an audition came up for a Fox TV show that was like this family drama, and it was by this critically acclaimed writer. And so I auditioned for that, and I kept getting further along on the audition for that one as well. And it came down to the point where Battlestar people were like, okay, we want you for the show. So let's do this. And my agent was like, well, the Fox TV pilot, it's down between you and another guy. And that final audition is next week. And he said, but the Battlestar Galactica people can't wait until next week. They need you to decide right now whether you want to do Battlestar. So you can either do Battlestar and end up on the Starz network and it probably never going anywhere or doing anything, or you have the opportunity to work on this Fox show and, you could, become a big TV star and blah, blah. So I was like, all right, well, I guess, if you put it that way, I guess I'll say no to the Battlestar. And so we said no. And then the next week I went and auditioned for the final test. They call it the final test between me and this actor named Jensen Ackles, who now is on Supernatural. And we went in, felt like I had a great audition. I walked out. I was like, all right, I put my best foot forward, and I didn't get the role. And so I had said no to A Bird in Hand and didn't get that show. And then Battlestar went on to go do like 7 seasons and win like all these Emmys. And it was like this breakout hit for the Starz network. And I was just watching this, and I could not watch Battlestar because I was so pissed off that I had said no to it. And then that show that Jensen ended up doing, they shot 10 episodes of it and it never made it on air.
It never aired?
For whatever reason. And then Jensen, of course, goes on to do 20 seasons of Supernatural. And I think, everything kind of works out in the end. But when I look back and how kind of crazy the business is, and you go back and you talk to any big actor and they'll tell you that, like Richard Gere in American Gigolo, he got that because John Travolta didn't want to do it. There's a ton of those stories out there in Hollywood where, someone did a breakout role and it was because someone else didn't want to do it or got fired from a job. Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future.
Right.
They had actually hired Eric Stoltz for that role. And they filmed like 4 weeks of Back to the Future. And they just felt like Eric's tone, he was just too serious and too dark. And so they let him go, and they brought in Michael J. Fox, and they had to reshoot the whole beginning of the movie. But it ended up, they felt like Michael was just more of a better fit for the movie. So
right.
Hollywood is a brutal business. You got to have a thick skin, and you got to be able to just rebound. After I got killed off of all my children, I thought my acting life was over. And then boom, I booked Melrose Place and back out in Hollywood. And then you're like, I'm back in the game. And then that show only goes 1 season. And you're like, oh no, I was expecting it to go 7 seasons because the previous one did. So you're constantly having to keep that forethought on, even when you're on a show, you're like, okay, I need to be working on networking and trying to create that next job so that when this one ends, because it is going to end eventually, that I'm not just caught flat-footed and trying to scramble and get another job. Well, it's always easier to get another job when you have a job.
Right, absolutely. And it's almost like, I think about, I do far less of the consulting type gigs, but it's almost like that while you're working, say, on the project, you're not necessarily thinking about the next project yet. So it's like, and if you don't do that, you're not teed up for the next project.
Right.
What's nice is in business, you can usually control the timetable of that in most cases. But yet with Hollywood, it's like you don't know if it's going to go for one season or if it's never going to air, or if it's going to go for
one episode. I mean,
one episode.
There was a TV show. It was about this guy that I auditioned for this role and got very close to getting the role, and then this other guy ended up getting it, and they filmed like it was supposed to go like 23 episodes, and they ended up filming like the first 14 episodes, and the first 2 episodes aired, and the ratings were so bad they just canceled it after 2 episodes. And you think back at like a show like Seinfeld, and that show was about nothing. And the reason why Jerry Seinfeld got that show was because he was tapped to be, this is what I heard, he was tapped to be the replacement to Johnny Carson. And Johnny Carson ended up extending on for a little bit longer. And so they had Jerry Seinfeld, or was it Jerry Seinfeld or Jay Leno? Maybe it was Jay Leno. Where, yeah, and so Jay Leno decided to stay on a little bit longer. So NBC had a contract with Jerry Seinfeld, and so they were paying him. And so they were like, well, we're paying you to do something. Why don't you just put a show together? Just do something. And so he put this show together about nothing, and it didn't do very well in the first season or two until it caught on with its audience. And sometimes, you just need you need time to let your audience find you. And you look at someone like Gary Vaynerchuk, who has been doing a lot of, he's a great motivational speaker, and he talks to kids and has a lot of great advice out there. And he's a social influencer, and people would ask him like, Gary, I've been like posting stuff on YouTube and I only have 4 followers. And he's like, Gary's always dropping F-bombs. He's like, fuck that. Like when I first started, I had like negative followers. And it just takes time. And he shows videos of when he was doing this like 15 years ago. And it just takes time if you just keep being consistent with what you're doing. And what I've realized too is with like Instagram and social media and how it's so important in business nowadays, especially in Hollywood, where casting directors and producers, they look at how many Instagram followers you have and how many Facebook followers you have. Because if the role comes down between you and another guy, and he has 5,000 followers and you have 600,000, then they know that if they hire the guy with the 600,000 followers, that they've got that built-in audience of viewership already. And that means a lot. And so that's why it's, it's not, and it goes for business as well. It's
right.
Social media has just been a game changer over the past few years. And
yeah. So I'm sort of curious. So you have, I know you have over 120,000 on Instagram, I think. And then, you've got 20 some odd thousand on Facebook. And now we, in the business world, we have you a little more in LinkedIn and some Twitter going on and things like that. What's your perspective of social media in today's world? I mean, think about it from the personal and the business side.
Yeah, it's a good question. I was so anti-social media when it first came out, 10 years ago or whatever. And I was seeing like Vin Diesel was one of the first early adopters.
Right.
And at that time, it was a lot of stuff on Facebook, and there wasn't like the Facebook Live or Instagram Live just yet, but there was Twitter, and he was just like posting all the time about like him on an airplane flying to his next job. And I always look at like, who cares? Like, you narcissistic idiot. Like what, like, who cares that you're at Starbucks ordering a coffee or what? I don't want people to know what kind of coffee I get or where I'm at, right, or what, like, and as I started to see, like, it turns out that Vin Diesel was an early adopter genius, because he had the foresight to recognize that this social media was a great way to connect with your fans and to grow your following. And what I've recognized and what I've been pleasantly surprised with is that I was afraid that I was going to be attracting a lot of crazies out there who just wanted to harass me and troll and just say all this, negative stuff. But the more I started to engage, not just post a picture, and when then people post, I've started to now engage with my actual followers. Because what I've recognized is that I can genuinely see how what I'm doing can influence or inspire someone to then do something that maybe they've been wanting to do, but just haven't had that push to do it. So like
Right.
this year, I started writing a book called The Agile Artist, and a lot of it has to do with harnessing everything I've learned over, the past few years in Hollywood, and how I've met so many different people and acting coaches and motivational people to help just push you forward into that arena of the unknown. And sometimes it's scary to jump into something that you're not sure of what it is or what it's going to turn out, or how, if you're going to fail or if you're going to look stupid. And so sometimes you just need someone to be that person to be like, listen, I've been there before. I know it's scary, but trust me, if you just do this step, this step, this step, you're going to be, you're going to be so surprised on the results that you can produce just by doing these few little things. And it makes me feel good to be able to know that I'm able to connect with people through Instagram, just, through this little device here, that you can affect people all over the world. I mean, I've got people following me I've done movies in Brazil and Thailand, and
Right.
and so people from all over, and people write in different languages, and I have no idea what they're saying, but it's like, oh yeah,
Thank God for Google Translator, right?
yeah, and they'll be like these like Russian letters, and then there'll be a heart, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I think that means that's a good thing. So
I know. We get that because Southeast Asia we launched in, and then some folks, in Germany and whatnot. And it's funny when you get those. I've had stuff in Saudi Arabia, and it's like you're like, okay, what are they saying? But what I like is now most of the social media platforms allow you to press the translate button, because then you're like, okay, is this like you said? I get scared sometimes when I see some of those things pop up, and I'm like, what are they saying? Who is this?
yeah.
And most of the case it's not that harmful, but that's super cool. So I'm thinking that you've moved back here to Chicago, and I know that I'm always like proud to be connected with you, because I see you doing so many things in the community. You love to help charities. You're a giving person. So one of the things that inspired me when I first met you was that you're like all about coming back here and helping communities. And so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, my parents have always been really involved with charitable stuff. I mean, my parents would have us go do soup kitchens growing up, and my dad was a doctor, so he was always around people, and he delivered babies, and just whenever I would meet someone and they would say, "Oh, your dad delivered my baby. He's like such a great doctor, and he's such a great man." And my mom, with she became a family therapist, and so they've always been great examples with regards to reaching out and having an impact on people and community. And so at an early age, I just started to see how rewarding that could be. And so as I've kind of just went through, growing up, it would start to, like, I volunteered to coach a kids football team. And then when I got into college, I worked at a group home for disabled kids, where some of these kids had physical or mental disabilities, and you'd help them get ready for school in the morning. And when they came home from school, help them with their homework or take them to the grocery store and help them learn how to use money and buy groceries and that sort of thing. And it was just incredibly rewarding knowing that I was able to contribute to people's lives like that. And then as I kind of continued on with graduating college and moving to New York City. I volunteered at a youth center where I was tutoring kids with who were getting ready for the SAT and the ACT. And as exciting as my life is, when I'm working on a movie set or walking on the red carpet or going to all these parties and traveling, it's fun and it's exciting, but it's not as rewarding as sitting with a 17-year-old girl who's having trouble with her geometry and helping her solve that problem. And then you see that light bulb go off in her head, knowing that she has the ability to solve this problem. And then on a much larger scale, giving her the confidence and instilling in her the idea that, you can do this and beyond. And did you ever think about going to college? And what have you thought about in terms of what's possible? And I've always loved how you can tell that when people haven't really necessarily thought about certain things, or if you present different opportunities that they weren't aware of, and then help them, push them towards that direction, that's incredibly rewarding for me. And so now that I'm back here in Chicago, one of the great things that I love about real estate is that not only are we going into communities that have homes that are run down and shabby, that need to be rehabbed and fixed up, but we're also putting local people to work because our contractors hire local people in the area who, some of them have gotten out of prison and have a felony on their record, and they can't get a regular job. And so our contractors provide second chances for some of these individuals that wouldn't normally have the opportunity. And people think like, oh, you're rehabbing homes in the south side of Chicago. Are you crazy? With all you see on the media and the gun violence and the murders. And what I've recognized is, when I first went down there to kind of see what was really going on, it's blown way out of proportion in terms of, it's not a war zone down there. I mean, there are certain isolated incidents where is gang activity. And once you start to get to know these communities, you just know to avoid those hot spots of gang activity. And it may be a mile away from where the hotbed of gang activity is to where our house is. And on our block, it's usually block by block, and they'll have a sign that says,
Right.
This is the 9100 ADA block. We take pride in our community, no guns, no drugs, no this. And we call the police, and we look for homes on blocks like that where it looks like people are it's a decent neighborhood, and people are just regular folk just trying to, have a normal life. And we go in those neighborhoods and usually find the worst house in the block. And when we're fixing it up, we're, helping stabilize those neighborhoods and get rid of some of the riffraff, because we're making the home nice and having families and, young professionals who are looking for a nice rehabbed home with nice quartz countertops and granite, and we're able to flip these houses at an affordable price, so that we're not necessarily gentrifying these neighborhoods. We're providing quality, affordable housing for people who actually live in these neighborhoods, who want to stay in these neighborhoods. And when we're rehabbing the homes, people in the neighborhood sometimes will come up and they'll say, they'll thank us for us doing what we're doing. And it's an amazing feeling knowing that when we rehab a home and someone buys one of our properties, knowing that we've provided a nice new home for these people. It's very gratifying.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think about that as, I grew up on the south side and then over by Gary, and I'm, depending on what chapter of my life I was in. And as you were saying that, I'm like, my sister, and even today, will be like, oh, you're not going into that neighborhood, are you? And I'm like, we grew up in those neighborhoods. I said, even when I was living in Chicago and I had a nice condo, you just had to know what blocks not to go to, but yet the section we were in, we were rebuilding, and I think that's so cool that you're helping to identify blocks that want to change. Because I think that's the thing. I think I think you're always going to have, the people that are tough to get, to sort of move out of the area, or there's a home that's stuck on that block and they don't know what to do. And so
Mhm.
you're sort of, what I hear you saying is you're coming in and helping those people or that neighborhood or that block at least, and which will change the neighborhood, to really go in there and I imagine, what do? You get investors to help out with that, and then you buy them up and fix them up, and then sell them.
Yeah. So with these types of properties, you can buy houses down there for 50, 60, $70,000, and it usually requires about 70 to $80,000 to rehab these properties. So you're all in for between 120 to 150, and then you usually can sell them between 170 to like 160 to like the high end 220. So we're not, breaking the bank in terms of making, a huge amount of money on these properties, but that's not the goal behind what we're doing. It really comes down to wanting to make a difference in these communities, and also because of these price points, we're able to get into more of them and have a bigger impact on these communities than if we were to do one big $500,000 rehab in the north side of Chicago, which we do have a couple of those going now as well, just to diversify what we're doing. But in the south side, it's easier to get in and fix up these homes and putting them back on the market in a relatively short time frame of about 6 months. And we have partnered with private lenders who, lend us
Nice.
money to actually get into these properties, and we're able to provide them a good return on their investment. And so it's worked out for a win-win for everyone involved.
Yeah, that's cool. And so then, as we think about that, you've gone from being killed off on All My Children to Melrose Place.
Glorious death.
Yeah, and then recently in Backtrace with Sylvester Stallone and Matthew Modine and that whole crew, and then still acting, and then helping to rebuild Chicago neighborhoods. I mean, that's got to be a tough balance.
I think it's a dream come true. I mean, yeah, I mean, I like to stay busy, and I remember the day when I first got out to Los Angeles, and I was just sitting in my apartment, and I'd be waiting for the phone to ring or get that email for an audition, and I'd be like so bored, and I'm like, what? I mean, I'm out here, I'm ready to do something, and nothing's happening, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll go to the gym, or I guess I'll go to Starbucks again and read a book on acting. And I just remember, like, I can't wait till some stuff is happening. And I realized, like, you just have to get out and start to make stuff happen, and be careful what you wish for, because now, I'm in the middle of rehabbing 2 homes. I've got a 6-unit apartment building I'm in the middle of renovating. I'm producing a film. I'm producing a reality real estate show. I'm writing this book. I'm auditioning for new TV shows. And in the middle of it all, training for my triathlons, because I'm very active with St. Jude's in Chicago, or Children's Hospital Los Angeles, raising money for them. And so, yeah, it's just it's a matter of just time management and juggling, and making sure that you just like got your calendar, you schedule your stuff out, and it's not about trying to find time. It really comes down to making time, and really, the night before, writing down in your calendar, okay, what am I going to do at 8 a.m. and what I'm going to do at 9 a.m. and what I'm going to do at, as a framework of what's going to happen. And it usually never goes perfectly. Things are always changing, and people are calling, and sometimes I got a call once saying that there was a car accident in front of one of my properties, and my tenant called me up at 11 o'clock on a Monday night saying that a car had hit the side of the house, and that the front of the car was now in the basement of the house. So you get those unexpected calls sometimes, but it's never a dull moment anymore. I'm never bored.
Well, I think a big message to everybody that's listening is, as you were explaining everything that you're doing, which, people look at my calendar and they get overwhelmed, and, especially my team here, and they're like, are you going to do all that stuff? And I'm like, I'm going to do the most important things. And if I can, yeah, I'll do as much of that as possible. But what I watched is your change in body language as you were describing that, and you're on camera. It's like, I get to do this, and I'm going to train for the triathlon. And so
Yeah.
I think you're at that point, at least for me, where it's like, he gets to do this stuff. And like when I said, isn't that overwhelming? You're like, no, it's exciting. And that's just the
Yeah.
attitude, right?
Yeah. And one of the things too, and I talk about this in my book, is I was living across the street from the World Trade Center when all of that happened in 2001. And I was on the 18th floor. My apartment faced both of the towers. And so when the first plane hit and I went to my window and I saw, people hanging out of the windows, and then eventually saw some people starting to jump, it just was like, it just hit me in that moment where it was like, man, life is short and it could end in an instant. You never know. Like those people, when they woke up that morning, not a million, trillion, zillion years would they have thought they would have been trapped in the top of those towers, wishing and I think about like what was going through did they wish they would have said I love you to their husband, or or told their kids that they or they had signed up for that triathlon, or that the person wished he would have gone up to that girl in the bar and gotten the phone number. Like you think like, man, life can end in an instant, and it's almost as if like I feel like I want to live a full life and not let stuff that I'm afraid of or that I'm nervous about stop me, because it's almost in honor of people who can't do it. And I think, because I'm in a position to be able to do all this stuff, I feel like it's almost like, it's, I feel guilty that if I am just sitting around, eating potato chips on the couch, I kind of feel like I'm wasting opportunity, and I just want to accomplish so much that, and that's not to say that, I don't sit around and eat pizza and cheeseburgers and watch movies and stuff, but, I'm just, I guess that's just the way I'm built. And, I really like to just get out there and do stuff.
Yeah, and I always think of that song, and I'm not a big country song fan, but there's the one song, like live like you were dying, right? So it's like you don't know when your last day is, and are you living every day to that moment? And I think that's what's cool about your brand that you've built is not just in Hollywood and the producers that I talk to that you're connected to. They get that part about you, and of course Melissa, is helping both of us get our books out there. So when I talked to her, and she's like, I just got done talking to Colin. You guys have so much energy. I think we like wear her out sometimes.
Yeah.
She loves
What's
it.
the name of your book, by the way?
Huh? First.
The name of your book is First. Awesome.
First. Yep.
And what's it about?
Well, how to be first, man. How to be first in your network, how to be first in your world, how to be first known. It's a book of firsts in terms of personal branding and putting yourself out there. So, and just like yours, it'll be out in a few weeks because it's coming fast, isn't it? Isn't it funny how you just set your mind to something and it's like, man, I think I just did that in 5 weeks or whatever. And I thought about it for 10 years. So
yeah. There's something about committing to something that, I don't know, the universe shifts or like the stars align. And it's kind of like, I've done 6 marathons, and I never thought I would actually do a marathon until my sister called me up one day and she said, I just watched Oprah Winfrey run the marathon, and that she did a show on it and showed her training. I'm so inspired that I want to do it. And it's like, do you want to do it with me? She's like, my husband's doing it. I'm like, crap, if they're doing it, then I want to do it. So I went online and I registered for the Chicago Marathon. And there was something about just typing my name in and giving my credit card and then getting that email back saying you are now registered for the 1999 Chicago Marathon, that solidified. It wasn't just a concept anymore. It wasn't just I'd like to do that, or like entertaining an idea. It was now it was solidified by that charge on my credit card, and that email. And it's like, if you then commit to something and have it actually be real like that, then it's almost like, okay, now I there's no more wishing or hoping. It's like, okay, come rain or shine on October, whatever, 1999, I have said I'm going to be standing at the starting line of the Chicago Marathon. Now, what do I need to do to get ready for that? And so I bought a book on marathon running, and I researched what are the best running shoes. And I just started to work backwards. And like, you look at people who climb mountains, they don't just, go to the bottom of a mountain and start climbing. They look at the top, and then they examine what is the best and easiest way to get to the top. And I read that book, Into Thin Air, by John Krakauer, about the Mount Everest climbers and how they go about climbing to the top. And they start at the top, and then they work backwards and figure out what is the best route to get to the top, and how are we going to get there.
Sort of like building a business, right?
There you go.
We always got to bring it back. And then you've done 9 triathlons too now, right?
6. But
6.
then and then 9 triathlons, 6 marathons, 9 triathlons.
Right.
Yeah.
So then how many marathons did you do? And then you're like, all right, this isn't enough. I got to go for the next level.
Yeah. It was my 6th marathon was the LA marathon. And by the time I got to the finish line, I was like, oh, okay, I'm done with this. I've had it. and it's always great when you cross the finish line. But one of my friends, an actor friend of mine, Jeff Stoltz, he was active with doing St. Jude's fundraising, and asked me if I wanted to be a part of the Miami South Beach Triathlon. And again, I never had it and didn't ride bikes. I'm not a good swimmer. All I've done, I did some marathons. And so he was like, yeah, you can come down and you can actually just do one portion of the triathlon. Like, you can just do the run portion. We'll pair you with a swimmer and a biker. Wow. And I was like, okay. So I went down there, and that's the thing. It's like, if you just say yes sometimes, and if you go into something with an open mind, if you just show up, you may be incredibly surprised. Because when I got down to South Beach, and that morning of the triathlon, I wake up and you see all the excitement and the energy down there, and you see all these really cool bikes, and you got the swimmers, and you're just around these just some of the most amazingly healthy specimens on the planet, and that everyone's just trained all these hours. And so there's this sense of community and excitement that we're all here to do something together. And once the gun went off and people were jumping in the ocean and swimming, and then they get out and they jump on their bikes, and I'm in the middle of all this, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I want to do all of this. And so when I got back to LA, I went and researched bikes and got a road bike, and found a road bike club. The guy who sold me my bike, turns out he was a national road bike champion in Moldova. And so I started riding with him and his group. And in the beginning, they would smoke me and leave me a mile behind, and then I would catch up. And then I just, you kept riding and riding until you're able to keep up. And then I got swim lessons from a triathlon coach, and because I was really good at the doggy paddle, but that was pretty much it. So,
I remember I did a sprint triathlon, but I chose an adventure sprint triathlon, which is kayak, bike, and run.
Okay, cool.
I'd never kayaked in my life. And so I went to Kayak Chicago. I like you. I bought a book. I went to Kayak Chicago. I took lessons on Lake Michigan, which is like the Atlantic Ocean. And then I just practiced in my pool, which was pretty funny. But it was I'm just like, all right, I'm going to be, and I actually did better than I thought. So it's just funny how when and I think the theme here for everyone is, it's like business. You set your mind to putting your personal brand out there, putting your business out there, building your business, taking it to the next level, things that seem undoable. And yet you surround yourself with the right people and you have the intent to finish, I think is what I'm hearing you say. And so it's like that mountain, studying the mountain for the triathlon and things like that. I think if we have the intent to do that and we have the intent to finish, and surround ourselves by the very best people, how can we go wrong? Because those people are going to
Yeah.
help us when we fall down, right? And when we
Yep.
trip up, and we can
And it's
slowly.
okay to ask for help. I mean, it's
Yes,
actually
excellent
important to
point.
ask for help.
Yeah,
I
that's
realize
actually a chapter in my book. Did you read that already? I haven't even given it to you, but you are in it. I can tell you that. So,
All
um,
right.
all right, man. Well, listen, as always, it's a delight. I didn't even get into the skydiving and the bungee jumping and everything else, but we are going to acknowledge that you have a dog named James Taylor, and
That's
you
right.
also are officially a funkle because you're the funnest uncle in the world, per your nieces.
Exactly.
So.
7 nieces and nephews.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's always a delight to have you as part of one of our programs. You've been to our live events, and I want to thank you for moving back here and helping us rebuild those neighborhoods in Chicago. Growing up as a street guy, that means a lot to know that someone's coming into your neighborhood to help make it better. And there's always going to be bad outside influences, and this means that they have a chance to really take it to the next level.
Yeah. Well, it's my
So
pleasure. And
yeah,
I just want to thank you guys for having me. And I think it's a blessing that I met you and that we've connected, because you've really helped me get reestablished here in Chicago, and anyone who's looking to expand their network. And what's great about what you guys do too is that I'm not big on LinkedIn, and I'm not big in the business space.
yeah,
And what you guys are great at is cultivating a really great network of so many different people in so many different fields, so that when someone new comes to your network, you're able to direct them to whatever network is already doing what they're doing and what you think could potentially help them and take their business to the next level. And that's what I've recognized is what is really great about what you guys do. And I would say to anyone looking to grow their network, and to obviously the end goal is to grow your business and become more successful, whether it's financially or in growing your business and taking it to that next level. You guys are right there to make it all happen. So thank you.
yeah. Thank you. We appreciate that. And I know Kate and Jackson and Joe, who's on with us today, although we never see him on camera, right, Colin? So in the meetings, but he's out there helping.
Thanks, Jackson. Thanks, Kate.
Great. And Kate's helping the social media be great, and her team and everything like that. So again, this is your social team, and we appreciate you as well. And if people want to go to your website, it's literally colinegglesfield.com, which
That's
is
right.
a cool new clean website. And your favorite,
Which you guys helped create.
yes, thank you. Yeah, thank
Yep.
you. And then also your favorite social sites. We know you're engaging on all of them, but what's the go-to one or two social sites that you engage on the most?
I'm very active on Instagram, and what I do is I then post on Instagram and have it then directed to Facebook and Twitter. Twitter is more social commentary, and I think it's great for athletes and politicians and people who are wanting to get direct messages out there. For me, it's more so I like to reach people. I'm more of a visual person, and I like to tell stories more in a visual way. I guess being an actor, it's more what I prefer to do. And for me, it's I think it's a quick way to for me to get my dose of inspiration for the day, because there's a lot of really great Instagram influencers out there, and so it's my quick little break during the day to see what's going on and see what my friends are up to, and also for me to be able to contribute and talk about what I'm doing. And also, if you don't mind it, I just like to mention too that with what I'm trying to create with one of the reasons why I'm writing my book, The Agile Artist, is to create this community of people where we are supporting each other in whatever it is that we're up to and bringing more creativity to each other's lives. And I feel like as I've gotten older, I used to draw a lot and I used to write more. And I feel like I just get so caught up with needing to get these emails done and going to the gym that I feel like I've let my creativity muscles atrophy. And I feel like when I just take the time to just create that space to write, and I've started journaling at night again and writing out in my gratitude journal what I'm thankful for. And I've started like doodling and drawing again. And it allows, what I've recognized, it allows when I'm creating that space, other ideas that I wouldn't have thought about on how to solve the problems I'm dealing with in my business start to just kind of bubble up. And when you give your space, yourself that space to allow your creativity and your subconscious to kind of like brew on whatever you're dealing with, it's amazing on what kind of things appear that someone will call and be like, oh, I'm looking for someone to speak at my thing, and I'm like, oh, or like I get a phone call saying, oh, are you doing anything next week? I want you to be in this movie or whatever it is. It's amazing the fortuitous kind of I call them miracles, but what can happen when you just kind of put it out there and just kind of let go a little bit.
Yeah, super cool, man. Well, listen, I want to thank you again for being on the program. We appreciate you, and we'll definitely have you on again. And then of course, you'll be at part of our live events as well, which we love having you out.
Sounds good.
So, all right. So we want you to stay on. We're gonna give away some prizes. We always give away a couple of engagement prizes. So, Jackson, who's our winners today?
So for our winners for today, we have two winners. One who was watching within Zoom and one who was attending on Facebook Live. So for our Zoom winner, that is Kate Hudson. So
from Child's Voice, Kate.
From Child's Voice. And then on Facebook, we have Adam Feather. So congratulations. And
wait! Isn't Adam the Wolf of the Wolf of Wall Street? He's the Wolf of Wrigley, isn't he?
He's the Wolf of Wrigley, yeah.
Yeah, right.
yeah, Adam.
Adam, we all know Adam. He's a great guy, man. Yeah. So now listen, folks. So Colin had a lot of good messages today. And our rule is we're going to give you a Starbucks gift card, but we want you to take somebody for coffee. And we want you to share some of the things that you heard Colin talk about. So that's part of our mission. That's part of being a business influencer and a thought leader, is to help others, like Colin spoke quite a few times in this program. So please make sure that people are saying, can I take Colin with me for coffee? That's between you and Colin. Sure, but you take it up with Colin. So anyway, but please promise you'll do that, and expect that. So Kate, what did you get out of the program? This was interesting in terms of where it was going, where we took it. What did you get out of today's program?
Yeah, well, I have a lot of conversations with Colin, and I think his story is just inspiring as a whole. But just the rebranding and kind of how he's shifting his focus, but still using his personal brand to tie it together. It's not like he's left Hollywood to try something new. He's kind of intertwining the two. And so instead of being the stop to one story and the start to other, it's kind of how they can develop together, and how, when rebranding is reevaluating your brand as time goes. So just love his story. Love being connected to him. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Jackson, thanks, any big takeaway for you, Jackson?
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway was one of the things he said towards the end, with not losing that time, that space for you to get into that creative zone. Not losing yourself in the emails and things like that. So kind of bringing you back almost to your roots with how he said he used to draw and do all that. And I think that's a big thing that resonated with me, because I'll catch myself just like constantly busting through emails, and then I don't go back and look at any of my old writing stuff that I used to do. So,
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so I think that was the biggest thing for me. So,
Yeah, and Colin, thanks. Because one thing I've been journaling, especially because of the book, but not quite enough. I'll catch myself going. There's so many great things that happen in the day, and I'll just be like, okay, I'm gonna collapse, and then, but there's always a good nugget or two to pop down there. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
keep that a little more present and top of the nightstand there. But thanks for inspiring all of us to take that extra step to go a little further and to be better. So we appreciate you for that.
you're welcome. Thanks for everything you guys do too.
All right. And then next week, Colin, you're not going to guess who we have, that crazy workout guy that we all know, Darren
Yeah.
Steve. Oh my gosh, the guy that was named by Arnold Schwarzenegger as the next great trainer. And so we're gonna have all kinds of things, and he's going through a transition too, where he's rolling out this executive corporate training program, and he's done it for Dr. Mercola, as a lot of you have heard, and some big names. But now he's rebranding and structuring himself, and he's going to take us through his journey. So maybe we'll have to have a great panel of all the Chicago people that we have in our wheelhouse here now. But all right. With that being said, from all of us here at Social Jack Studios, we appreciate you folks hanging on. And so after this is produced, Kate and the team will let you know how to get to those channels to pick up the podcast and or the webcast. And then you'll be able to watch it and share it with your friends and family. So from all of us here at Social Jack Studios and the Influence Factory, we will see you online. Take care, everybody.
Awesome. Take care, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Influence Factory podcast. We welcome feedback and suggestions. You can provide these by visiting our website at www.myinfluencefactory.com. And if you are interested in Social Jack's 90 Days to Influence program, you can simply go to 90daystobusinessinfluence.com and simply ask for the next steps. While our program airs regularly on Zoom webcasts and Facebook Live on Wednesdays at noon Central, we invite you to download episodes on your favorite channel: YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, and who knows where else in the future. We will also provide occasional on-location live streams with special guests that we will announce in our community Facebook group, Business Influencer Alliance, as well as on all Social Jack channels. Our mission is to help you build your digital business influence with this podcast, as well as inspire, educate, and entertain those who are hungry to collaborate in a cool place with cool business professionals just like you.